So, is there some scientific truth within the mythical truth?
See, we overprivilege science. So when somebody talks so much about scientific truth, can you scientifically prove that I'm jealous? It is why India didn't become a scientifically advanced country, because you decided the guru knows everything.
But when does that desire turn into, shall I say, Bakasur?
What does being living mean?
I can only think of scientific definitions.
Give me a scientific definition.
Does not have the need to reproduce.
So maybe it has and you can't see it.
As an author, as published as you, as widely read as you, do you have any advice for young aspiring authors?
Ask yourself, why should anybody read you? Every author I know says, I want to write. And I always say that, but why should I read you? Did I read? Likho apne liye and close the book and be happy, you've written.
What do you think, based on your experience, your feelings, would be the meaning of life?
You're asking because you can imagine a world without you and you realize the world can function without you. And suddenly you feel you don't matter anymore.
Welcome to the Literary Odyssey. Today we have with us Devdutt Pattanaik sir, renowned mythologist and a best-selling writer. And today we are going to talk to you about some things, about your work, about your methodology. And I'm sure our audience is going to learn a lot. So I wanted to ask you about this, a concept I came across, and I think that is something you can tell us a lot about, was this idea of a Homo Narrans, that we are storytelling animals. And I think you can really illuminate us on how exactly like our species is defined by our ability to tell stories.
Think of a situation where a deer meets a tiger. The deer knows who it is, right? It knows कि मैं हिरन हूँ और शेर सामने है, शेर मुझे खा जाएगा. So I have to run away from it. The tiger knows who the deer is. There is no identity crisis. No animal has an identity crisis. No plant has an identity crisis. Every plant knows what it is. Every animal knows what it is. But humans don't have an identity. We have an imagination. So people see us in one way, but we imagine ourselves in another way. And we are the only creatures who experience that because we have imagination. And because we have imagination, we are always wondering who we are, the way we imagine ourselves versus the world, how it imagines us. And therefore, there's always this identity issue. Ki kiska sach hai? Whose truth is the truth? And that's where storytelling comes from. So storytelling comes from the quest for human identity. You're seeking your identity and you find it through stories. Either others are telling stories about you or you are telling stories about yourself. And you exist in a story. You're a hero, you're a villain. In someone's story, you're a villain. In someone's story, you're a hero. And that's how stories emerge. So that is the origin of storytelling, to give meaning and to give identity to your life.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. You often talk about the distinction between, mithya and satya, the mythical truth and the scientific truth. And scientific truth relates to falsification, the idea of something objective, something that remains constant given certain situations. Have you heard of the cartoon series Role Number 21?
No, I have not. Sorry.
No, that was something we were a big fan of. So in that, what happens is there's this school and Krishna is a student and his roll number is 21. And Kans is this, strict principal, and he keeps on conspiring in every episode. And at the end of the day, Krishna wins. So why I wanted to bring this up is because every myth might also have certain constant things or certain things that remain constant, certain scientific truths, if I may call them. For example, in the story, Krishna, the relationship, the dynamic remain constant. So is there some scientific truth within the mythical truth?
See, we overprivilege science. What is science? Science is about measurement. You can only work with measurements. Now tell me, can you measure jealousy?
No.
Does jealousy exist? Can a scientist measure it? Can you falsify jealousy?
I mean, a Likert scale could be created, and people could be asked to write their experiences.
But wouldn't that be subjective?
Correct.
Can you measure it? Measurement is objective. If you can't measure jealousy, so jealousy is out of scope from the scientific world. Which engineer can work with it? Which technology can work with it? Now tell me one STEM Nobel Prize winner who can do anything with jealousy. So when somebody talks so much about scientific truth, can you scientifically prove that I'm jealous or you are jealous or your friend is jealous? You know of Iago, in
Othello.
Othello, Shakespeare, was how do you know he's jealous? Show me the technology of identifying jealousy.
You just feel it, I guess.
So science has been overestimated because it can do nothing with human emotions. It can help you with material things. What can it do with psychological things? Emotions, can they ever be scientific truths?
No.
So how do you access emotions? No scientist on earth can deal with emotions. So when people say it is true, what they say it is scientific truth. But does scientific truth encompass the entire scope of human experience?
No, not at all.
So STEM doesn't solve the world's problems because it can't reduce jealousy. So aren't we overestimating science? So when we had scientific education, who taught you about jealousy?
Nobody.
So isn't your education incomplete? But nobody raised that question. How come in 75 and all these 100 years nobody talks about it? अकबर बीरबल की कहानी सुनी है कि जहाँ पे they go to Agra और एक दिन under a lamp post they're looking, some man is looking कि मेरी अंगूठी यहाँ गिर गई थी, and they all try to help him. They can't find the अंगूठी कहाँ है, where's the ring, where's the ring? And finally Birbal asks him कि अंगूठी, where did you lose the ring? And he says in the darkness. He says, why are you looking under the light? He said, बेवकूफ, the light यहाँ पे है. That's science.
Yeah.
Problem is in the darkness. You're looking in the light because the measuring instruments are here. But what about things you cannot measure? जिसको संस्कृत में निर्गुण कहते हैं, जो निराकार होता है, and that's nothing magical. It's just emotions. There's nothing magical about the word nirgun. You can't measure emotions. Anger, hatred, frustration, craving, none of this can be measured by science. It's outside the scope of science. Is it important?
It is important.
So why does nobody ask a scientist that? Why do we assume scientific truth is like God, it will solve all problems? Why is there so much arrogance about science when it cannot solve foundational issues like jealousy, for which only space you can go to is literature, art, because art captures jealousy, poetry captures jealousy, paintings capture jealousy. The only place where jealousy can be fixed is literature.
So what would, for example, for science, the foundation, the epistemological foundation would be empiricism, five senses, all those things. What would be the knowledge-based foundation for mythology or like
Feeling. So empiricism is more, the epistemology of science is not even based on senses. It is based on measuring instruments. I cannot see the stars. The telescope can see the stars. I cannot see the cells in the body. The telescope can see the cells in the body. So when you are talking about epistemology, it is only capturing your entire basis is based on measuring instruments. What about all the things a measuring instrument cannot measure? कहाँ है वो? Because I can't measure, it doesn't exist. Isn't that an absurd statement? I cannot measure jealousy, therefore jealousy doesn't exist. ये तो epistemological flaw हो गया ना?
Yeah.
So how do you know a jealousy exists? I feel it. I feel anger. I feel frustration. I feel misery. I feel depression. So feeling, which cannot be measured but can be captured in art and literature, why are you defensive about it? So epistemology, which is the creation of meaning, is not through measuring instruments. It is also through storytelling. How do you tell someone that you're upset? You need words. You need diagrams. You need, if you can't speak, if I cut your tongue out, can you still tell me? Yes, I can. You can perform it. You can dance. You can show it to me through expressions. There are so many things you can do to communicate it, none of which are objective.
just one counterpoint because I'm finding this interesting. Might we have some measurement, some way of measuring feelings in future? This is a common anxiety within people of literature.
You cannot ever measure feelings. because feelings are subjective. Measuring tools only measure that which is objective. To be objective, it has to be material. So if energy is measurable, it is a objective, and an entity can be measured, a concept cannot be measured. So it's something that is foundational. So it's just, I am surprised nobody raises this point. It's all basics. Sagun, Nirgun. Science is Sagun की दुनिया. निर्गुण वाली दुनिया को कैसे मैनेज करोगे? बताओ, कैसे मैनेज करोगे? Show me Elon Musk. Get me the best scientist in the world. Get me the best mathematician in the world. Get me the richest man in the world, the most powerful man in the world. Tell me how you'll reduce jealousy in the world. And why has nobody raised this question in academia? That tells you the flaw in the entire intellectual enlightenment issue. This enlightenment did not ask a foundational question. What about things that cannot be measured that they exist? And we're not talking about bhoot pret. We're just talking about simple things like jealousy.
Emotions.
I'm not talking about paranormal phenomena. I'm talking about very basic phenomena which everybody exists. You look at a scientist and say, do you experience jealousy? How do you prove it? QED, he is jealous. Karke dikha?
I really like this when you said that stories and let's say the mythical truths are about the Nirgun. And in our tradition, correct me if I'm wrong, Nirgun is something we associate with this the highest form of reality. So the way to inquire would be stories and not science, because Nirgun can be accessed through these feeling based stories. That's a very interesting idea for me. We talked about this a second ago before we started recording. You are a structuralist, and structuralism is a word that most of our viewers are afraid of and run away from. Could you explain a little bit your own methodology? And you can be as technical as you want. I'm sure they will follow about structuralism.
No, see, it's nothing complicated. See, first of all, there's no highest truth. All these people who talk about highest truth and all that, in the old days, first, before we go to this topic of structuralism, do you know what is the origin of the word spirituality?
Spirit?
What does spirit mean in the 19th century or 18th century?
Ghost, I think.
It meant psychology.
Oh.
It's nothing more than psychology. That's all it is. Itna complicated bana diya. It's no param satya or nothing. Just take one word, jealousy, and work with it. So we use all these complicated paramatma, atma. Atma just means your mind, what is inside you. What does Krishna called atma in Bhagavad Gita? He says, dehi, जो देह के अंदर है, तो तुम्हारे देह के अंदर तुम्हारा माइंड है ना, इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड क्यों बना रहे हो? दिखता है? कैन यू सी योर माइंड? सो निर्गुण हो गया ना. आकार क्या है माइंड का?
निराकार हो.
तो निराकार हो गया. Why do we make it so complicated? So this is the problem with the academic spaces and with the enlightenment movement, is that, and the white privilege, where we just assume that white people are so smart. They are the dumbest people on earth, because they have not come up with this very basic, itna complicated cheez ko itna. How many minutes did it take me to explain this to you? And why is no professor talking about it? Why is it not big deal? Liberal arts should be taught. Yes, because STEM cannot explain jealousy. In order to explain something which is very abstract, don't you need structure? So that's where structuralism comes in. So structure is, how do I convey meaning to you? I have to use words. Without words, I cannot. Meaning निर्गुण होता है. Words सगुण होते हैं. आप सगुण से निर्गुण की तरफ जाते हो ना, शब्द से अर्थ की तरफ जाते हो, बस उतना ही है. It's not so complicated. If you want to tell someone I hate you, you have to use the word hate. Abhi, if you don't know English and I say hate,
It doesn't mean anything.
it doesn't mean anything. So language has to be communicated. It's like this glass with containing water. मुझे प्यास है, इसलिए मुझे पानी चाहिए, लेकिन पानी तो वो ऐसे उड़ुक के नहीं आएगा, ग्लास में चाहिए. This is the word, this is the meaning, and my curiosity. If you're not curious, you don't seek water. And in order to get access to the water, I need the glass. That's all it is. The language is just so simple. If you're not curious, you don't care for language. So if somebody says, I'm not interested in language, he's not a curious person. He's dumb. He's not curious. Jigyasa nahi hai. तो शब्द की आवश्यकता क्या है? जिज्ञासा ही नहीं है उसके लिए, बैठो आलू के जैसे. So that is the problem. So what is structure? Structure is when I'm trying to explain something to you, I need language. When I need language, I need vocabulary, I need grammar. Vocabulary and grammar create structure. So there are nouns and verbs, and therefore how do I use it? And structure is, every language has structure. For example, in English I say you are coming here. हिंदी में कैसे बोलोगे?
तुम यहाँ आ रहे हो.
तुम
यहाँ आ रहे हो.
तुम बोलोगे
आप यहाँ
या तू बोलोगे?
not sure.
अभी स्ट्रक्चर बदल गया ना. इंग्लिश का यू बिकम्स आप तुम तू, तो स्ट्रक्चर बदल गया. Why does Hindi have 3 words and English has only 1? संस्कृत में कितने वर्ड्स हैं बताओ?
त्वम, युवम, युष्मान. I think 9.
त्वम नहीं होता है,
त्वा.
त्व ही होता है. There is nothing else.
तो बाकी उसके फॉर्म्स हैं.
It's त्वम. There is no आप in Sanskrit now because we use words like bhavati, bhavanam, but that is a new word. वेद में नहीं है. So Indo-Aryan language में there is no आप तुम तू. संस्कृत में आप तुम तू है नहीं. ये कहाँ से आया हिंदी में? Where did it come from Hindi? Where did it come? Because it's not there in Sanskrit. So where did it come from? If it's not there in Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is the mother of languages, तो ये 3 words आए कहाँ से? इंग्लिश में तो है नहीं. फ्रेंच में है थ्यू एंड वू. 2 levels आते हैं. नॉर्मली सोसाइटी में 2 ही होते हैं. There's a senior guy and the junior guy. हमने 3 लेवल लेके आए. Why? Because भारत में जाति सभ्यता होती है. हर आदमी के ऊपर कोई होता है, नीचे होता है. So आप और तू. लेकिन इंग्लिश में नॉर्मली सोसाइटी में एलीट एंड नॉन एलीट होता है. 2 levels होते हैं. India is the only society which has 3 levels. Every person is तुम, बट उसके ऊपर एक आप होता है और उसके नीचे एक तू होता है. तो सबके नीचे सब तू ढूंढ रहे हैं. Everybody wants someone below them and nobody wants above them. But in English there's only 2 levels. Either you're up or you're down. But in India they're saying that there's always someone above you and there's always someone below you. This is structure. इतना ही है स्ट्रक्चर, इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड नहीं है. हर भाषा का स्ट्रक्चर समझ में आ गया तो आधा भाषा समझ में आ गया. English word evil translated in Hindi,
शैतान,
बुराई.
बुराई.
that's bad, that's devil. It's not evil. Hitler is an evil man. Hitler बुरा आदमी था. Doesn't sound correct.
Not a-
शैतान था. Is that correct? No. Why is the word evil cannot be translated in any Indian language?
Christian.
But why? What is there in Christian which is not there in Indian languages?
The karmic cycle.
Rebirth.
Rebirth.
So when you have rebirth, you don't need the word evil. When you live only once, you need the word evil. So the word evil is now based on a structure. Language का structure मिल गया ना मुझे. कि इंडिया में कल का मतलब क्या है?
Tomorrow, yesterday, दोनों.
Structure आ गया आपको.
That's also because of
So
rebirth.
when you start studying different languages, you automatically understand structure. If you study only one language, you don't understand structure. When you study multiple languages, you understand that every language is a different structure. So when you see food, Master Chef, you have seen?
Yeah.
Master Chef. How do you eat a typical Master Chef meal?
With all sorts of things.
With cutlery.
Yeah.
If you are eating Chinese food, how do you eat? Chopsticks.
For chopsticks, yeah.
And Indian food is eaten with हाथ.
Yeah.
3 different structure आ गया. That's all structuralism is. So the vocabulary of food has structure. So structuralism is that simple. And therefore grammar comes into the picture. You start understanding that language has between them a logic. कि rebirth के साथ evil word जुड़ गया. So something which is socially a conceptual thinking, the way you imagine the world shapes the languages that you need. Right? Software word didn't exist 200 years ago. You created a word as new words emerged. Words created worlds. World creates words. Which world do you inhabit? We don't inhabit the same world. So जो अगर आप एस्किमोज के पास जाओगे, आई मीन एस्किमोज तो वर्ड नहीं है आजकल, इन्यू ही होता है. सो इफ यू गो टू द आर्टिक रीजन देयर विल बी मेनी वर्ड्स फॉर द स्नो. If you go to the desert, there'll be many words for sand because they need that structure. We don't need it. So structure is there in everything. So if you see Ramayana, for example, and Mahabharata, they have the same structure. They don't. You think they are two different stories, but they really have the same structure. Both stories begin with palace politics. Then it moves into Vanvas, forest exile. Then it moves with negotiation before the war. Then it starts with then as war and then aftermath of the war. This is there in Ramayana कि palace politics हुआ, उसके बाद exile हुआ, उसके बाद negotiation before the war, war after war. So for me, when I look at Ramayana and Mahabharata, the structure is the same. People will say it looks different. I said no, same structure. So if you start seeing the skeleton of your body is your structure. Without a skeleton, the body doesn't have shape. So that is how you understand structure. So structure is the inner architecture of language, the architecture of everything. So that's how you study things. Building का structure अलग है. Rainy areas में the structure will be different. Flat land में अलग होगा. Mountains का architecture अलग होगा. So everywhere structure is different. That's what structure means. It's not that difficult.
So we got examples from the world of food, world of architecture, language, stories. That was what more could our students ask for. And the whole Sanskrit Hindi conversation was so interesting. I just want to talk about language, but we do have more questions, Dhananjay.
Yeah. So talking about structurally analyzing narratives, looking at narrative society in general, I do want to talk about the narrative structure of the Mahabharata, which is the frame narrative structure. I just checked up. It starts with Ugrashavas Sauti talking to saints, which is the outer frame, and then Vaishampaina talking to Janmajay, and then Sanjay to Dhritarashtra, and then the battlefield. We see this frame narrative in Western literature as well. Wuthering Heights is an example, the novel. But what is the significance of this layered frame narrative?
A story within a story.
Yeah. So these are oral traditions where the storyteller is telling that what I am telling you. It's like when you write references, when you write a paper and you have testimonials and you say, where did you get this information from? So you have in academia, you have references, right? मैंने ये किताब से लिया, ये किताब से लिया. So what is he saying? I heard this story from so and so. That person heard it from so and so. That person heard it from so and so. Basically, he's also giving a disclaimer that if I make a mistake, sorry, because इतने लोगों से आया है, पता नहीं कहाँ से source क्या है. So they will say things like, when he told the story, there were 40,000 verses. Now, but many got lost. Only 20,000 verses are left. And third, so it's a way of saying that I'm not the source of knowledge. That what I'm telling you is not coming from my imagination. I have heard it from someone else. He heard it from someone else. He heard it from someone else who probably witnessed it. But it can be even more complicated because there is a very famous Mahabharata story where Jaimini has some doubts and he goes to his teacher Vyas and says that, and when he goes to Vyas, he realizes Vyas has already gone on pilgrimage and Vyas is not there. So he says, how will I get the story? I have a doubt. So they say, you know what, the war was also witnessed by these 4 birds. Why don't you go to these 4 birds and they will tell you what happened in the war. And those birds, the story goes that, when the battle was being fought, an arrow went to the sky and it hit a pregnant bird and the eggs fell on the ground and these birds were born in the battlefield. So they saw the war very differently from the way Vyasa saw the war. So their perspective of the story is different. So now you got a different perspective. There's another flow of story coming. So they constantly, in India, the value is that there is no transcendental narrative. All narrative comes from a human source. So when you read the Bible, for example, it doesn't have the structure. In the beginning was the God. Who said this word? We don't know. In the beginning was the word and the word was God. That's the first line. But किसने बोला ये?
No narrator.
No narrator. So who said it? When you read the Quran, it says Ikra, it begins with Ikra, but who is the narrator? God spoke these words. Now that's like the ultimate. Uske baad, who witnessed it? Muhammad witnessed it. But who remembered it? Because it's written and Muhammad was illiterate. So now when I start asking these questions, it gets complicated. So if you look at stories which come from the Bible, they will not allow second version to come in. There's always a fight about King James Bible. There has to be an authentic version. When to the Quran, there's an authentic version. But when it comes to Valmiki Ramayana and all the Indian scriptures, there is no authentic version. There are multiple versions, multiple things. Within the story, there are multiple variations, because it is a culture which does not like singularity. So it's a plural culture where everybody's story is different and you have to work with multiple realities. There's a rejection of standardization. There is an embrace of customization. So it's a very different culture. So structurally, we are a very different culture.
Could this be also related to Nasadi Sukta, where, who created everything? Maybe the Devas, or maybe Devas know this.
Yeah.
And then.
So doubt, skepticism. There's always doubt, skepticism. But remember, we are also a culture which created the Guru. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru. The teacher is the perfect thing, which is the end of scientific thinking, because there's no doubt, there's no skepticism. So it's Nasadi Sutra versus Guru. See, the two ends, India has both. The Guru Gita, have you read? Where God is, what is it? Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu. So basically, you're telling the Guru that is basically saying, it's called Shabda Praman, testimony, which is the opposite of science, because there's no doubt. There's no skepticism. That is why India didn't become a scientifically advanced country, because you decided the Guru knows everything. In science, the Guru doesn't know everything. The Guru also has to prove. Skepticism comes from the Rig Veda. But 15th century, we started writing the Guru Veda. We forgot everything. So the moment whenever says Guru Purnima, sir, and I'm like, oh, this is when science ended in India.
That's a very interesting way to look at the.
Yeah, because science is about doubt. What is the definition of science in the Royal Society of Science? Nullius in verba. Not on anyone's word.
Oh, quite
the
opposite.
Definition of science is the opposite of Guru Gita. Is the opposite. This is a complete opposite. तो अगर आप गुरु मानते हो तो साइंस नहीं मानते.
Would you say science just only follows the Pratyaksh Praman?
No, because you can't witness everything, right? You need inference. How can you visualize?
Anuman.
So अनुमान होगा, उपमान होगा, measurement होगा. Measurement is upaman. Anuman is inference. Statistics क्या होगा? Statistics is anuman. It's an inference. You infer things. Measurement क्या है? Upaman है. Pratyaksh, you can only see so much, na? How much can you see? How much can you measure?
You said cells, stars.
Cells and then subatomic particles. Jealousy तो छोड़ ही दो. प्रत्यक्ष में तो नहीं डालेंगे. अनुमान तो करना पड़ेगा. So nobody talks about this emotional space. How do you witness emotions? How do you measure emotions?
Those are also all the pramans are something that very often students struggle with. That's also came up naturally.
It's very simple. It's a 4 pramans. Either I can see it, or I can measure it, or I infer it, or I listen to the testimonial. That's it. Now, कुछ complicated नहीं है. See, people make it complicated. And the moment a teacher makes a subject complicated, the teacher has not understood the subject. I don't trust that teacher at all. Either they have not understood or they're not capable of communicating, which is a major problem. Sometimes they know the subject, but they're not able to communicate.
Yeah. I want to shift to desire. Desire seems something very interesting to me, because in the Indian tradition, desire is often, I think, as far as my understanding serves me, something that is causal to existence. I am one, I shall be many, that idea. But when does that desire turn into, shall I say, Bakasur?
First, tell me, what is the difference between an object and an organism? One difference between an object and an organism.
Organism has some intention.
Okay. What intention? What is the one major difference?
To survive.
Look at organism with some empathy and not the object, perhaps.
Okay, but that's very, you're talking about your point of view. See, what is the difference between the two of them by themselves? Ontologically, what is the difference?
One is a living being.
Yeah.
Other means what? What does being living mean?
I can only think of scientific definition.
Give me a scientific definition, but there is only one simple answer. It's not so complicated. Physics or biology mein fark kya? There's only one word.
Life.
Life means what? How do you measure life?
That would be something that reciprocates.
How do you say it is alive? Okay, how do you know this is alive or not alive?
It does not have any organ systems. It does not have the need to reproduce.
So maybe it has and you can't see it. There's something else, something very foundational. Very foundational, very basics. And that's what I'm saying. We don't think very basics. A living organism has hunger. उसको भूख लगती है. पेड़ों को भूख लगती है. That's why they have leaves and roots. Animals are hungry, therefore they migrate. They hunt. They graze. When we use words like desire, we forget something called hunger. Buddha never used the word desire. Do you know the word which Buddha used when we say desire is the cause of suffering? What is a word that Buddha probably used in Pali? He used the word tanna, which means pyas. He used a physical word, physiological, trishna. He didn't use some desire, sounds so abstract. Physically, to stay alive, you have hunger. How is desire different from hunger? But desire seems so disembodied. But when you say hunger, I'm hungry for things.
Visceral.
It's visceral, right? It's more visceral, it's real. And in humans, of course, a plant and animal is only hungry for shelter or food. But humans are hungry for more. We are looking for meaning. We are looking for status. We are looking for privilege. We are seeking knowledge. We are hungry for knowledge. So, desire is what makes us human. Hunger is what makes us human. It first makes us alive, and then in the advanced levels makes us human. So, a person without hunger is not alive. He's not hungry. He's not curious. So, why is a person who is a scientist not seen as someone with desire? I desire to know. When do you read a book? You read a book because you're hungry for something. If nothing else, time pass ke liye. I'm bored. So I consume something in order to be not bored. So desire enables consumption. How much of consumption of books makes you a Bakasur?
Maybe if you are in the academia, you are a Bakasur in a way.
When you start consuming others, that's when you become Bakasur.
Okay.
That can be done intellectually as well.
Also, right? People can consume each other. Right? A toxic relationship is a consumption. Somebody's being consumed and I feel consumed. So we now see we have come to a different level of conversation. We're talking about the psychological level. So how do you measure that? So that's the world of desire. So the thing is, what we are doing is we copy paste what was written by previous people without questioning what they said. हम लोग अटक गए हैं दुनिया पे. The enlightenment. We don't check with Voltaire. Why are they not talking about hunger? Why are they not talking about jealousy? Don't challenge what they've not studied. They're too busy seeing what they studied. What has been expressed, not what has not been expressed. And that's the problem. We're under the torchlight. We're under the lamppost. We're not looking at the darkness.
This is a good callback to do. We saved this question for later. It's a very general question. I think you would also feel, what kind of question is this? But because you have studied so many myths and you know so much about language and you understand how things are more complicated than they seem. So maybe this question is also something that is more abstract than it needs to be, like hunger and desire. A general question which I think everybody wants a writer to respond to is, what do you think, based on your experience, your feelings, would be the meaning of life?
Staying alive?
That's a scientific answer.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing.
But if you're not alive, then life is over. Na? So step one, job karo. Because ghar kaise chalega? So meaning of life is, plants don't ask this question, animals don't ask this question. Only humans ask this question because you're asking, because you can imagine a world without you and you realize the world can function without you. And suddenly you feel you don't matter anymore. Therefore, you seek meaning in life. Because you know that if you disappear right now, the world will continue. Kuch farak nahi padega. If Elon Musk disappears right now, Trump disappears, anybody disappears. Tell me the names. And so every human being keeps asking, so why am I there? So why am I there? Therefore, we are seeking meaning. And in nature, nobody asks the question because every organism and every plant exists to be consumed by someone else. So it's a very simple thing. You're consumed by someone. We are creatures who don't want to be consumed by anyone else. And then you're asking, but meaning only comes when you're consumed. For example, does the sun have meaning? Does sun have value? Forget about meaning. Does sun have any value?
Yes.
To us, yeah. To us as a planet,
If there were no plants, would the sun have any value?
no.
So value of the sun comes from plants. Is a plant of value? Who gives value to the plant?
The organisms who feed on it,
The herbivorous animal. Who gives value to the herbivorous animal?
the carnivores.
So your value comes from being consumed. So why are you valuable? Who consumes you?
Academia.
I think the people who would be in my life,
Your girlfriend, boyfriend, do they consume you? Your parents consume you? We are consumed by the ecosystem of the world we live in. They're all consuming all the time. So consumption is not being looked at. All relationships are consuming. Your parents are consuming you, you're consuming your parents. So your mother feels valued. Go to an old home and you'll realize what is the absence of value, because nobody comes to see them. कोई मेरा दर्शन नहीं करता. Nobody sees me. Nobody hears me. Nobody talks to me. So we are valued when somebody listens to us, hears us, talks to us, engages with us, because they can consume us. If you're not consumed, you have no value.
that was very nice. I think moving on from these general things towards something more practical, not general, these more, let's say, feeling based things towards something more practical. So one thing that is very common in our field and for us too, we have a lot of ideas that we want to write on and send out to the world. As an author, as published as you, as well read as you, as widely read as you, do you have any advice for young aspiring authors? Because you said that you were a student of medicine and then you moved to this whole new world. That must have been a scary choice to me.
It was not a choice.
Mm.
It just so the thing is, ask yourself, why should anybody read you? Every author I know says, I want to write, and I always say that, but why should I read you? Like, value kya hai? It's like saying, I like to cook, but does anybody want to eat your food? Value of food is only if there's a hungry person waiting to eat your food. Na? So, if nobody wants to read you, why are you writing? Write a diary. Likho apne liye and close the book and be happy, you've written. But you want to be read. Why do you want to be read? Because you want to be consumed. Because you feel what you bring to the table is so valuable that someone will relish it. When they don't relish it, you feel you have no value. Koi nahi padta hai. Is it better to write a book that people criticize or write a book which nobody reads?
The former, I think.
Very obvious.
So the thing is, when people say, I want to be an author, I said, why? Like, why should I read you? What do you bring to the table? Why should I pick your book in a library? Why should I pick your book from a bookshop? They don't tell me an answer. And that is the problem of authors, most authors, is they don't know what they bring to the table and why they should be consumed. The day you know why you are consumed, or what is the hunger in the market for which you prepare a food, then there is something happening. That hunger has to be satisfied. We are bored, so we need entertainers. So we need singers, dancers, musicians. If you were never bored, why do you need a singer, just a musician? You don't want to work. We love leisure. Therefore, we want laborers. If you didn't want leisure, why do you need a laborer? So this supply demand is something that we don't understand. It's very romantic to be a writer. But at the end of the day, if nobody is consuming you, you can cook all the world. Imagine having a restaurant where nobody wants to. Imagine you write, cook, and nobody enters your shop. Nobody is interested in your food. Then, let's say, मैं बहुत बढ़िया खाना बनाता हूँ, लेकिन उस देश में किसी को भूख ही नहीं लगती. करोगे क्या?
I have one curiosity that goes back to, we went to publishing, but I want to go back to the distinction that you were talking about Saguna and Nirguna. And I want you to like elaborate a little bit on that, because what my understanding was that man, buddhi, ahankar, these things are part of the sagun, are part of the material, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
So if you can't measure it, it's not Saguna. That's it. If you can measure any of these things, so most of the Gurujis just copy paste. विवेकानंद ने बोला तो मैं भी बोल रहा हूँ, गुरु ने बोला, वो गुरु गीता वाले लोग है ना, जो गुरु ने कहा वो सही है. Why do you say बुद्धि is सगुण? दिखता है? नहीं दिखता बुद्धि, मेरे को दिखा बुद्धि, मेजर करके दिखाओ. So because गुरुजी ने कहा it's सगुण, it's सगुण. So who decided it's सगुण? On what basis do you call it सगुण? गुण क्या है उसका? दिखाओ तो मुझे. नहीं दिखता है ना, तो नहीं है सगुण, निर्गुण है. It's as simple as that. I don't need a Guruji to tell me. गुरु गीता वाले अलग होते हैं. They are not interested in growth. They are not curious. They are fools. If you want to have a curious, critical mind, you have to ask these questions. If I can't measure it, hunger सगुण है या food सगुण है? बताओ.
food sagun.
Simple है. Presence of food indicates hunger.
Yeah.
So through the food, सगुण से निर्गुण की तरफ जाते हैं. If there was no hunger, would there be food in the world?
No.
So what came first?
The nirgun.
देखो, enlightenment मिल गया तुमको.
You should, I mean, it will be a quite a demotion, but you should teach sometimes.
Like they're really transcendent about it.
Transcendent, it is a structure which comes from Christian mythology. We have been ruled for 200 years by Christian, by the British, and therefore transcendent. Dehi. Look at where does he say? The word is para and apara. That which I can measure and which I cannot measure. That's it. It's three. वो जो त्रिशूल होता है, it is para, apara, and para apara. I'm not sure. Bheda bhed, which is Indian headshake. पता नहीं है भी नहीं है. That is all it is. इतना कुछ complicated नहीं है.
So what would be under para?
Because you don't know, does hunger exist or not exist? It does exist, but I can't measure it. So does it there? Yes, it is there. Is it not there? I don't know. I'm not sure. That is para. Where your mind is moving this way. Does God exist? Yeah, but no. Maybe. So yes, no, maybe.
Okay. I think that's nice to have three terms. You are not limited to some kind
Because the binary is a foolish thing, right? Because सबको पता है कि नहीं होता है life में ऐसा binary. Where do you put faith? Fact or fiction?
That is, again, I think that's where.
So para, apara.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, simple. इतना मुश्किल क्या है इसमें? Because we have been boxed in by the Gita group people, that Guru Gita वाले लोग, they have boxed us in. Therefore, they do not allow critical thinking. If you have critical thinking, you should not accept this line. On what basis did you say it is measurable? If it is not measurable, it is not sagun. Simple. The world of science is sagun. Very good, very useful. Without science, we wouldn't have all this technology. But can it remove jealousy? No. Can it solve the world's problems? Definitely not.
Definitely not.
Capitalism का problem क्या है? Things, if I produce all lots of food, the problems will be solved. Communism का problem क्या है? If I distribute all the food, all the problems will be solved. ऐसे थोड़ी ना होता है life. So we overestimate the inheritance, the colonial inheritance.
We covered so much ground. We have talked. If we were to use the colonial disciplines, we have covered so many disciplines through this discussion. It's quite enlightening. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your valuable time and your valuable insights. I'm sure our audience will enjoy it as much as we have. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.